So welcome everyone to a BPM RealTalk show. My name is Mark Khabe. I will be the host of this show. As you all know, we really wanted to establish a platform where we could invite BPM practitioners from all around the world that can come and talk about their experiences, their journeys, their successes, but most importantly also their failures. So hence we started the BPM RealTalk platform. So our mission remains to inspire, inform, and empower the community of BPM practitioners around the world. Today, we are really going to focus on transformation, but through different lens. We want to go beyond a process and technology and really place people at the heart of transformation. And that's what we're going to focus on today. So our guest today has over a couple of decades of experience in delivering various strategic transformation at global as well as local levels in blue chip companies. So he has worked extensively with companies right from 20,000 employee organization to almost around 300,000 plus employee businesses. So really vast skills and experience in partnering with C-level executives on how do we bring them on a journey to really help them address their critical strategic transformation questions. So on that note, I would like to welcome Augusto Romero, Director of Global Strategic Transformation and Change at American Express Global Business Travel. So before we really dive into the discussion point today, I would love for Augusto to probably tell us a little bit more about himself so we know a bit about his background and his experience. So Augusto, welcome, and would love to hear a little bit about yourself and your background so the audience knows where you come from, and then we can get straight into the topic.
Hi, Mark. Thanks a lot for having me here. That's a topic that I'm very passionate about, people as well as diversity in ideas and talent development. My background is on target operating model implementation. It's making sure that there's a clear vision, purpose, strategy, strategic priorities, and metrics, and then bridging the gap between the current and the future state through portfolio, program, and change management. I have been doing this for my entire career, and I have I have been through 7 different industries, just to show you a tiny bit how much I like change. None of them the same, so I never been in the same industry twice. And I spent most of the past 10 years. First, I was in consulting at EY. Then I moved to corporate and investment banking at JP Morgan before joining Amex GBT in the travel industry, which is the largest travel management company in the planet. And I do love change because for me equals growth, and you grow because you learn. And the part I like the most about it is not so much learning about new solutions, methodologies, or tools or practices, which is the operational part is quite interesting, but I like much more the people part, getting to know different people from different backgrounds with unique and diverse experiences. And that is why, in a way, I decided I'm from Argentina, but I moved to London in 2012. And one of the reasons for moving from Argentina to London was to keep learning more, knowing more amazing people, unique stories. So yeah, I've been now in London since 2012. I'm based out of Wimbledon, and yeah, quite happy to be here and to share my experiences, where, as you said, I learned a lot, mostly from failures, from mistakes.
Amazing. And Augusto, this is quite incredible, the 7 different industries. So I'm going to dig a little bit deeper into that in our conversation, that the vast variety of differences across the industries. And it's quite amazing the way you put change, actually, right? So change always seemed to be getting negative attention, right? That's what people don't want to change because it's got that negative connotation. But when you sort of the way you position about change equaling growth, which is absolutely correct, right? So every time you're changing to progress. You're changing for positive outcome, hoping for positive outcome. But I think its structure is critically important. Well, you talked about target operating model uh, being quite an important part of your career. And a lot of our audience members are actually deploying new target operating models inside their businesses constantly. So why don't we probably start with that, right? So can you talk to us a little bit about the establishing target operating model, the different facets of targeting operating model? What's been your strategy to introduce the new targeting operating model structures in the organization?
Sure, I think target operating model is a big word, but in reality, it's fairly simple. It's like strategy, which strategy equals choice. Target operating model is basically you operate as is in a way that in the future, short, mid, or long term, you want to change. So you want to move from where you are to where you want to be. And as you're looking into that, kind of the first critical question is what is the burning platform? Why now?
Mm,
The answer might be yes, where you want to be is fantastic, but it's not the right time
right.
to go into that journey. But if you are sure that you have the right burning platform and it's the right moment to embark in a transformative change, then it's really around looking at what is our vision of success. So what I was just trying to say is you start by really understanding your current state.
Mm,
Why do we need to change? Is it because of market dynamics? Is it because we want to ignite disruption in the industry or for any other reasons, like regulate? So once that you have clarity on your current state, then it's all about what is our vision of success. And it needs to be realistic, like
mm,
real like world strategy. Many times you can get your head above the clouds and that doesn't pan out very well. So it's really getting what is our purpose, what is our vision, what is
yeah.
our strategy, what are our priorities, what do we want to be. And many times a typical failure is lacking that transformation story. um, so once that you have that clear and you can explain that in a simple way where you can answer to across different layers in an organization, to leaders, to people that are driving the change, and to people that need to adopt the change, that you can answer what is in it for you,
Mm,
how what we are doing is going to improve your day-to-day work or your workplace. So once that you have clarity on why you're moving, what's happening with your current state, once you have clarity on where you want to be, your future state, then it really comes down to bridging the gap. What is the gap between the current and the future state? And as you
interesting.
are assessing that gap, you start talking then around change impacts. And those change impacts can be either on the different stakeholder groups like customers or suppliers or different business units in the organization, technology, finance, etc. That assessment will give you a good perspective of the size of the gap that you need
Mm,
to bridge through change management. And the other critical part, which is the trigger of this conversation, is the change impacts on operating model. So, what is the level of impact on people, process, data, and technology? So, once that you have clarity on all of that, then it might be a transformation of your target operating model that it is quite light on people. You're not changing our designs, you're not changing culture, you're not changing behaviors, you're not changing roles or responsibilities. It might be fairly light on technology. You're not introducing any new tool. Um, but it might be really high the impact on the operating model on processes, and that will require specific attention, which is one type of target operating model implementation, which is a completely different ballgame when you are impacting people, process, and tech to a significant level.
Understand. Quite interesting. I think the way you sort of just probably walk through the journey of right from defining the purpose of transformation or changing that to then understanding where we're at to where we want to be and how we're going to get there, and then really deciding which areas of the target operating model are going to have the highest level of impact from people, process, technology, and data, which will define the type of operating model that will actually turn out to be and how the change will be implemented. On a surface level, it's quite common sense if you see it that way. But I think a lot of time we get stuck into into a very different technological focus compared to looking at the lens of the fundamental purpose and why we're doing this and what is the purpose and where we're going to go there and what will actually help us get there. Now, it's quite amazing. And look, and I think the process and many technology get a lot of attention. Right, most of the time they get very quick attention, and people sort of get left behind. Like in your recent experience, Augusto, have you got sort of any real life scenarios where you've seen the people led or people focused transformation have delivered the more tangible results than the process of the technology? Or what has been your experience, or has it been vice versa?
Yeah, I think as much as I understand the value of technology, as much as I understand what technology can deliver for an organization, what I do know is that unless the organizational ecosystem, people embraces the technology, it is a waste of money, time, and resources. So, in my experience, when organizations address critical human interfaces very well on a consistent basis, they are twice or more likely to be successful than those that don't. And that is really at the leadership level. So, leaders that communicate, articulate the transformation story, the vision, the why, and the repeat, and they target that message to different audiences. At the middle level, which is the people that driving the transformation, that driving the change, that they are empowered and they work in a transparent and honest environment where they not only have the support from the leaders, from the first human interface dimension, but also that they feel free to share not only successes but also difficulties. Sometimes a big challenge is, when you have a good news culture, that you can only come to your boss or to your leaders or to the leadership team with solutions, which is great. I mean, if you have somebody that comes to you all the time with solutions, that's fantastic. But you should also open your doors to listen to issues. For example, we wanted to go live in April. We are in January. We have set business readiness acceptance criteria. We have this list of must-haves. These are not going to be ready as we were hoping by April. That's not sometimes good news that leadership might want to hear, but is a reality. Then it's up to leadership to say, great, thanks Augusto, thanks Mark for sharing this with me. Then it's up to them to say, well, we want to reduce our readiness acceptance criteria. Maybe we don't want 100%, we want 80% because of all of these considerations. That's a different conversation. And the last critical human interface is the organizational ecosystem that needs to embrace, adopt, and to drive transformation and change sustainable. It's not just about taking it off the ground and crossing. I mean, the go live is not the finish line. That's the beginning. So you need to empower to move into BAU and make the change sustainable. You need to empower, bring people, bring the organization on board for them to embrace it and move forward. So all in all, when I look at people, process, and tech, in my experience is 70% people and 30% tech, data, and processes. And many times I have some people that reported to me in the past that were amazing at creating, using the top technology, great tools,
Yeah.
or process experts creating amazing, sophisticated processes and saying, here it is. But how you co-create it with people that need to use it, with the end user? How are you going to drive adoption of this? Many times I've seen in many cases amazing tools that just didn't land. People didn't adopt them,
That's true.
or were not, maybe it was the right solution in the wrong time.
This is it. Quite interesting. I think, and it's quite refreshing for me to also hear, because most of the time when the people are considered in the transformation journey or the transformation model, they're always thinking about how we're gonna implement change for these individuals. But what I got to know from you too just now here, it's not only about just the finish line there about adoption of new technology or new processes, but the internal communication and the collaboration, right? Before you even get there, like in your example about, the go live date is going to be pushed off now by another 6 months, and but if we don't actually facilitate that communication and collaboration internally, that
Mhm.
means you will go live, which is gonna, it's gonna fail, and it was not endorsed properly by the executive, which will be end up being disastrous change management journey progressively. So it's even the going before even you getting to that point, having that communication, collaboration, bringing people in that journey of the transformation, not just at the considering them at the end being an adopter of new change or or new operating model. It needs to be how do we actually bring them in that journey, and that's quite interesting. So have you sort of seen, Augusto, sort of any common sort of, if you had to pick top three pitfalls, and if you had to pick top three pitfalls when people are driving, that people are not really engaging the employees or team leaders or managers or executives or frontline staff in the transformation initiative, top three pitfalls or problem areas that continues to reoccur?
So I think it really connects to what are the critical success factors and what are the challenges that you face if you don't do them properly. For me, the top three success factors are leading change with empathy, empathizing with your end user. In that sense, design thinking is fantastic.
Right.
Co-creation, bringing people on board from the beginning. Everyone that is going to be impacted by these changes are change agents for whatever you're trying to do. So if you're not involving them to a certain degree, then that will impact sentiment and adoption. And last but not least is evolution of the mindset. End of the day, to drive cultural change, and even when people talk about agile with capital A, it's all about the mindset. So that's the cultural part, the mindset, the behaviors, and the values. So it really boils down to change interventions, managing individual behaviors, and in the sense of the typical failures, it is quite hard, other than saying you're not empathizing with your end user. Let's say you are about to roll out a new process or a new technology, and
Hmm.
you have not done testing with super end users, the ones that are all the time following the process or using the technology. So definitely you're not empathizing um, with end users. You're not co-creating with them to really connecting with the grassroots to understand their day to day. You can do a day in a life of um, experience design. You can use empathy maps, you
Yeah.
can create personas. So many things and many times we use with customers externally, we can use exactly the same practices and tools internally. And the top three, I would say, lacking a transformation story. That storytelling is so important if people don't understand why. Because in a way, if and maybe Mark, you can tell me if you agree or not based on your own experience. If people are engaged, they are more productive. If people are more productive, customer satisfaction goes up, profitability goes up, shareholder value goes up. So, how can people be engaged if you're not even resonating with them and having a powerful story? So, that's one, and probably the top two. It is a tricky one, the top two, because I have two in my mind that are competing for that spot. One is working relying on functional experts or on people that have done it before and failing to embrace diversity to challenge the status quo, failing to embed cross-functional, multidisciplinary, neurodiverse perspectives. And as I said before, I'm quite passionate about diversity in ideas, but
Yeah.
if you're just only hearing diverse ideas, which is a great first step, but then you're not incorporating them, if you're not, diversity and inclusion,
Yeah.
you can see in benchmarks how organizations innovate, and you can get a good indication of how diverse and inclusive they are. And the last one, which was competing for the top two spot, is really focusing on activities over outcomes. That you're failing to deliver the right outcome because of a process or a timeline, right? As we were saying before,
Yeah.
we are not hitting our readiness acceptance criteria. We are 70%, not 100. At least having that conversation, by being 100%, this is the outcome that we wanted to deliver, which might be a better customer experience. It might be a technology that is 100% ready instead of 70%. But it's really focusing on the outcomes instead of a timeline.
Incredible. No, it's quite amazing. And I totally agree with you about employee engagement. By the way, Augusto, I think the employee engagement will automatically result into a productive and happy workplace, which then is translated into the automatically exposed to your customers, right? So you transpose that energy into onto your customers, which in turn really have a great customer experience, which in turn increases your profitability and the market share and so forth. So it's the, the root cause of really having great employee engagement in all levels can translate into a great results. And I like to talk about the empathy, the transformation story, the employee engagement, and then as well as diversity and inclusion, right? So not just having the story, but including that. All of those points, I can see how that can probably bring the people at the center of the transformation rather than just the process and technology, right? Having great processes on a piece of paper or sitting in a technology doesn't deliver the results unless and until employees would engage with it happily and work on it. And it's quite phenomenal. So let's shift gear. Let's talk about culture, right? Because that keeps coming up all the time. So, and then I know you talked about the transformations can be done through sort of operational transformation, which it could be a change in processes, change in technology, and the transformation in your culture, right? And as you talked about that, you can talk about story and diversity. However, how do we include that and make that as part of DNA? So, have you had a sort of those both type of transformation rolling in parallel, like cultural as well as operational? Should they be one or the other, or can they work in parallel? What's been your take on an experience so far on it?
Maybe a couple of examples. One was when implementing Agile back at EY, which is not that different to my current role, which is building an enterprise change capability, in the sense that they are both similar. The
Right.
solution is different, the methodology and solutions are different, but the approach is similar in the sense of you're addressing both the cultural, which is the most impactful but less visible part of the change,
Yeah.
which is the mindset, the values, and the behaviors, as well as the operational part, which is the most visible, like the tools, the practices, um, but less impactful. And you need to address both. You need the methodologies, the tools, the practices, as well as clearly defining what is the right mindset and what are the typical failures that will not allow you to achieve that mindset, whether you're talking about agile or whether you're talking about transformation, driving transformation and change. A typical failure that you can notice in a mindset that is driving transformation not properly is lacking a transformation story,
Yeah.
for example. So in the way that I have addressed this before and now is the cultural part, which is really connected to that critical human interface that I mentioned before, the leadership level,
Hmm.
this enterprise change capability at Amex GBT, I put together a group of change ambassadors, which are influencers connected directly to the senior leadership team.
Interesting. Yep.
Their mission was to drive the cultural transformation. Was I clearly laid out what the mindset, the values, and the behaviors are for driving transformation successfully, and their mission was to amplify this message across the organization. The
Interesting.
second one, more related to the operational part,
Yeah.
is I built a change practice. So there was like a change playbook. You cannot ask people to follow different processes, use different tools if you don't provide them with that and you train them on them. So I created a change playbook and brought it to life through the change practice. That their mission was more to drive the operational change, apply the best practices and methodologies in the day to day, whenever they are driving change, small, medium, or large scale. And the last part, which brings all together, is about a year ago, I kicked off a change community,
Okay.
which is really to is a kind of a sounding board to let us know how well or not we are succeeding with our change and transformation efforts.
Incredible.
And here I brought together the change ambassadors, the change practice, and people across the organization that are passionate about building a more agile and resilient organization. So with that, you address the cultural, the operational, and you bring them all together and you have like a temperature check to make sure that you are doing things right and you can adjust if not, but you create that transparent and honest feedback loop.
Incredible. Now, I like the two terms, and I think I might actually use it myself. The change ambassadors helping drive the cultural transformation, and change playbook that driving the operational transformation, and then validating that change ambassadors are endorsing that change playbook through the change community. It's nice little triangle there, that you've got together. That's quite amazing. And look, I'm sure, Augusto, you can probably got lots and lots of stories, but we are running out of time for today's conversation. But look, I really appreciate you jumping on the call today and sharing all your experience and expertise on how do we bring the people aspects in the transformation, make it more visible. And as you probably have shared, that 70% of transformation initiatives should be driven or focused from people angle, and 30% should be focused on process and technology angle to really gain that success in delivering your target operating model. I really appreciate all your insights, and thank you very much. I'm pretty sure our audiences have got tons and tons of questions, and they will also reach out to you personally. Once again, for our audiences here, please like, please subscribe these episodes, and feel free to reach out to Augusto if you want to learn more about the target operating model and the transformation methods for target operating model. Thank you again, Augusto. Thank you for being here.
Thanks a lot, Mark, for the invite, and look forward to answering any questions as they come.
Cheers.